Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Good evening, Malcontents. I am David, I am the Malcontent, and welcome to our next Malcontentment Happy Hour. Today is January 7th, 2021. This is going to be a really serious show. I mean, we're going to try to keep it light where we can, but there's a lot of real serious topics that Jennifer and I will be covering tonight. And with that, let me pull in Jennifer. Jennifer, good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine.
Fantastic.
That's progress. We're a little late tonight, Malcontents, because there was a Force software update at 7:30 tonight, and it was like, no, you must update, and it just it really messed up my world here in the studio because it has just been an insane day from a news cycle standpoint. 2 days, and once again, so much news, Jennifer, that. I've got handwritten notes because the stuff is just coming in so fast.
Yeah, it's definitely been an insane couple days.
So before we jump into our story number one, as we always do, as you know, we always have a story number 0. And there is actually a breaking news story, which is our story number 0 tonight. The Stranger is reporting this evening, we have this up on our Twitter, that the Seattle Police Department has finally acknowledged that their reports of extortion being done in CHOP on business owners and homeowners for protection money, it wasn't true.
Wow. So what spurred this? The kind of understanding now that spreading misinformation can lead to violence? I mean,
I think you're really overthinking it at this point. I have been told that there are that there's a couple of new people or one new person in OPA, and this person is kind of a little bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and hasn't had their hopes and dreams of the world crushed yet.
Give it time.
So maybe it's this new person at OPA that. The thin blue line will take care of any of that bright-eyed and bushy-tailedness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
At the risk of starting the show off very cynical. What we're going to do as we go on from our story 0, let me go ahead and queue up before we even start our first story again. We've got one more thing to do. Jennifer, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you for you to do our land acknowledgement.
All right. Good evening, everybody. And because we are coming from Seattle, we would like to acknowledge the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Duwamish, Puyallup, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. And these are the lands in which we live and work.
Jennifer, can you hear me? We had some bandwidth issues, actually. You dropped in and out for a little bit.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now again. We had some bandwidth issues. Why don't you just, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. Why don't you go ahead and do it one more time?
All right. Are we ready?
We're ready.
All right. So we are living here in Seattle, Washington. And because of this, we would like to acknowledge the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Duwamish, Puyallup, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations, where we live and work.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. I really appreciate you adding that to the show. Rashi, we did it twice just for you. Rashi is our editor who does all the post-production editing for us for when we do rebroadcast or redistribution of our content. With that, I'm just going to go ahead and move to our first show, our first news story. I think everybody knows what the first news story is. I'm going to preface this before we go on. Tonight's show is going to have a lot of content that is going to be showing extreme violence and protest. And viewer discretion is really advised. And with that, we're going to go ahead and roll to story number one. And our first story takes us to Guatemala, where angry domestic terrorists stormed the nation's capital to overturn the results of a lawful election. I'm sorry. I apologize, Guatemala. That didn't happen in your country. I just picked you because Donald Trump called you a shithole country. But apparently, Guatemala, you have a better way of doing elections than we do in the United States, at least in 2020. No, we are talking about an attempted coup. Let's call it for what it is, malcontents, that happened before us. And I would say that coup is not over. And we're going to get into why I believe that coup is not over. I believe Jennifer, my co-host, shares that opinion, but I don't want to put words in her mouth as I just did. So, Jennifer, I apologize for that.
No, you're spot on there.
Jennifer, we've got first thing I want to do before we go into the video clips. This is where I've got like all these notes because so much stuff is coming in so fast. Yep. And that's part of the reason why I didn't even get into the studio here in 7:30, because it was like, there's another story. There's another story. There's another resignation. There's another. The first one takes us to the East Wing where Mike Pence hangs out. Mike Pence says he's not going to do the 25th Amendment.
Yeah. Why? I don't know.
Why? I don't know either at this point. If this isn't the bar,
yeah,
then where is the bar?
Yeah, and I feel like by not doing the 25th Amendment and really, giving him consequences for these actions, people aren't going to take anything that happens in the next 2 weeks he's still in office seriously, at least not in the context of his supporters. And you're just asking for more trouble. You're emboldening them.
Absolutely. And when we get into his I'm doing air quotes, concession speech, it's been broken up in 5 chunks because you and I are going to rip it to pieces when we go through his 2-minute, 40-second statement today that some are labeling a concession. Let me go over the resignations that we've had. Betsy DeVos is the latest resignation. What I could not find for airtime is if her resignation was effective immediately or if she had set like it was a Friday or a Monday.
No, it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Okay, so she's wimping out on doing a 25th Amendment.
Yep.
And that's why she's exiting the door. It doesn't have anything to do with, well, okay, lines have been crossed.
Yeah, well, that's, she was like the rhetoric. Her statement was like the rhetoric, has really, kind of crossed the line for me. Okay, it's not like this rhetoric hasn't been part of his, MO the last 4 years, but okay, Betsy.
Apparently, she hasn't been paying attention. She needs to go back to school.
Yeah.
Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao, also Mitch McConnell, soon to be minority leader of the Senate,
Mhm.
wife. She tendered her resignation yesterday,
Mhm.
very late in the day, and hers is effective on Monday. I found that interesting that she was sticking around until Monday.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why. Um, I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Everything's kind of such a mess. It's like hard
That
to
is
even.
not true. You know a lot. We wouldn't have you on the show if you didn't know
I know
anything
lots of things and
anymore.
everything. I'm having like some existential crisis at the moment because some my student called
um,
the suspicious clown fiesta.
the I have been calling it the beer belly putsch, but I also do like what your student is calling it.
Yes.
Uh, my initial thought my initial thought when I heard Elaine Chao uh, tendered a resignation was coward. You don't want to do 25th Amendment.
Yep.
Then when I heard she was sticking around until Monday, I was like, oh, that's
Mhm.
kind of interesting, right? Because does that mean you're sticking around to vote for 25th Amendment? Trump go, no. Cabinet meets again. Cabinet goes, yes. And then say, okay, history will show that I voted for this. Bye bye. But if Mike Pence isn't going to, even if that was her intent, if Mike Pence isn't even going to put it on the table, then there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Senate Sergeant at Arms Michael Stenger, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Mm.
Mitch McConnell asked for his resignation. The Senate Sergeant at Arms is responsible for the security of the Senate chamber. I guess he got an F yesterday.
You think so? I feel
I
like,
think
yeah. I
so. I
feel
think that's an
like all
F.
of them got an F. The ones taking selfies, helping, domestic terrorists down the steps so they made it safely. I think they all failed yesterday.
Yes. And there's actually a resignation related to that. House Sergeant at Arms Paul Irving. So he's responsible for security for the House. And Nancy Pelosi said, I want your resignation today. So the really sad thing is that Michael Segler and Paul Irving will now get a much higher paid job doing security, probably for a corporation by the
Yeah.
end of next month.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Which is gross.
Capitol Police Chief Stephen. This name can't be right on my paperwork, and so I don't have the last name because what I have is Sunday, and it looks like it's an editing artifact error.
Mhm.
If somebody can go ahead and look that up for us, but Capitol Police Chief has resigned as of today because of the abject failure of his police department yesterday.
Shocking. Steven Sund.
Stephen Sund. Oh, so I
Yep.
see. I was okay. So I got auto corrected to Sunday on me.
Yeah,
National Security Advisor Matt Pottinger.
Mhm.
We've reported that last night, but he also resigned. There's also political fallout from this. Kelly Loeffler conceded her loss today.
Yep.
I mean, the Kelly Loeffler is like the story of the Grinch. Like her heart grew 3 sizes bigger after that shit yesterday,
Yeah.
which isn't saying much.
Really
But
not.
people that watch us know I give credit. I will give credit to the devil if the devil deserves the credit. And Kelly gave a very conciliatory speech last night.
Mhm.
And she also backed away from disputing the vote in Georgia last night. So say what you want about Kelly, but at least she can read a room.
Yes. Unlike Ted Cruz.
Unlike Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley or Lindsey Graham today.
Yeah.
But Lindsey Graham today has just been like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. Arrest and injuries. 68 arrests is what is being reported. 56 officers injured. One police officer, DC police officer, is reported to be brain dead. and only being kept on life support so that their family can come and say goodbye, which I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of families who have lost family members to COVID that are hearing that story and going, what the fuck?
Yep.
And I know that people are going, but he was, no, it's what the fuck.
Yep. I agree.
Lindsey Graham today, I know we haven't even got to the clips. This is like so Lindsey Graham has just stepped in it over and over again. You know, Lindsey Graham defending not doing the 25th Amendment, not supportive of impeachment, has kind of doubled back down on like, well, maybe there was election. He's pissing everybody off today. So that pissed off the left. The other thing that Lindsey Graham said is that basically the police and the National Guard should have used live ammunition on anybody that was in the Capitol yesterday, because they don't know if anybody was carrying bombs. And the political rights brains right now, like Steve over at Freight Broker, he's just in rage. He's doing a whole story just on Lindsey Graham right now in parallel.
Yeah. Lindsey Graham is losing his damn mind.
This guy got reelected.
Some of the
South
stuff
Carolina, what the hell?
He's like, I don't support the 25th Amendment, but if something crazier were to happen, I was like, oh, great. Way to send out like a dog whistle. You know, these guys are going to be like, challenge accepted. That wasn't crazy enough.
So let's run through the events that happened yesterday. There's all sorts of video clips that have come out from yesterday. There's video clips from what we call, I'm going to run the Chud clip because it's really appropriate tonight.
These are Chud. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Yeah, there were a lot of Chuds yesterday. There's Chud video. There is video from staffers and Congress critters. There is video from news agencies. There's videos from reporters. And the first video clip, what I'm calling Where It Begins. And I'm going to go ahead and roll that clip. And again, we're going to be showing video tonight that shows extreme violence and protest. Viewer discretion advised.
Let's go! Fuck this shit! We pay your bills! You back the fuck off! You back off! Move! Move! It's our house! It's our house! We pay your bills! We pay for this shit we put up! For some bullshit! You got it! Good! Come on, hold my back. Hold my backpack. Hold my backpack. Fuck, I can't hold on. I can't get around.
There's so many different places I can go. I guess I'm going to fire off three things rapid fire. Number one, there were more police officers on Friday night that arrested 6 protesters here in Seattle for doing chalk art on a temporary wall. That's thought number one. Thought number two, anybody who was on the Western Barricade, whether you were a media or a medic or a legal observer or a protester in Seattle from June 1st to June 8th, has to be watching that video going, what the fuck? I mean, I just don't know how else to put it. Number 3, there is a police officer in that video that is clearly injured with a head injury. There's just no denying it. And part of that too, like no support. Like the other officer, there's only one officer that ran in, and it was like that guy didn't get the memo. It was like, no, there's a coup going on, and we're just going to let this happen.
Yeah. That was nothing short of a shit show. That's the only term I can use to describe it. And I can't see the video clips, but if I recall, that's the clip with the guy that turns around his MAGA hat and says, "Hold my backpack."
Yes, exactly. It goes like total bro, right? Total bro mode. I'm going to turn my head around.
Yeah. That was insanity, like absolute chaos and insanity. And the interesting thing is I was watching something on MSNBC earlier where somebody was trying to make the case that they were just underprepared because they didn't expect this kind of violence from white people. So they were told that they could only use minimal force, they could only have batons, and they were really just to kind of leave them alone. I don't think that's unprepared. I think that was intentional.
I think it was intentional too, because you're only left with 2 options. It was intentional, or they just proved that there is institutional racism that exists in the system in the United States of America going back to the founding of the United States of America. Those are your 2 options.
Yeah, or both.
All right, so we don't go on and on and on. I'm going to go to the next clip.
Because I'm breathing.
Okay, so let me help unpack that for our viewers. What you're watching there is a small group of DC police officers who are trying to block the right-wing domestic terrorists from going further into the Capitol. The police officers are attacked, their batons and shields are taken from them, and the batons and shields are used against them. And as you can see, they are pepper sprayed with bear mace from the elements that are in there. So my 3 fast thoughts on this. Number 1, again, why so few people when... How did we know this was going to happen? I don't understand. Like I read this. I did brain damage on Power. I'm in some Telegram. Yeah, it's like some chuds right now. We got to figure out what it is to he in the Telegram group. I'm in some of the Telegram groups. Every streamer in this country knew. So what? I have better intel than the Washington D.C. police? Are you kidding me? We'll call that 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Number 3 is these are domestic terrorists. Could you imagine Black Lives Matters protesters doing this?
If they thought BLM was coming, they would have been way more, air quote, prepared. They would have been, insane.
But we've never seen this level of violence from BLM against police officers.
No, but they still would have been, over prepared.
One thing, if I remember, let's go back to Minneapolis during the eruption of the George Floyd protests. There was a police officer who got lost. He got separated. He was surrounded by an angry mob, and black BLM protesters surrounded him and said, "No, you're not hurting this man," and they escorted him out.
Yep.
It's all on video. It's not made up.
Yep.
And we have in our documentary, which is coming up, video of strong declarations. Nobody is touching this East Precinct building by the black people that are initially there on the 8th. It's just beyond stunning.
Oh yeah, it's stunning. It's gross. It's so many different, evokes so many different emotions and adjectives.
One of our commenters said people who can't see the difference are complicit.
Yep.
And with that, again, in the interest of keeping the show moving, we're going to go ahead. Can you tell that we have a timer in the room now? I'm going to go ahead to the third clip.
Okay.
Whoa! CNN sucks! CNN sucks! CNN sucks! CNN sucks! CNN sucks! On tape, more or less. CNN sucks! CNN sucks! Hey guys!
So let me unpack that one for you. That is a video clip of right-wing domestic terrorists destroying the First Amendment while claiming they're there to protect the Constitution. They are smashing the camera equipment. You hear them saying CNN suck. They're actually smashing the camera equipment of the Associated Press, of which, ironically, Fox News, OWN, and Newsmax distributes their content. Sorry, Chuds, the truth hurts. And also a couple of international news agencies, also we've learned today, had some of their camera equipment in there. We also see some people stealing equipment there. So here are my three quick thoughts on that one. Hey, Brandy Cruz. Yeah, I know you, it's fine. I like poking at you, and I know you don't read any of that stuff. But Brandy Cruz, I saw the video, what happened to you at the early days of Chaz. And I got up and I said that I was despicable. I didn't agree with it. My values and the treatment of the press is very consistent. But Brandy, you've been awful quiet on like everything that happened yesterday. You have 160,000 followers on Facebook. You blow a dog whistle and incite this kind of action. Where is your outrage for what happened yesterday to the press? There was a Fox News reporter, Brandy, a Fox News reporter that was attacked. It's on video. You can go on Twitter, Brandy, Fox News Capital, video come right up. I'm going to skip the video tonight in the interest of trying to keep us within 90 minutes. I think I've said my 3 points. Brandy Cruz, what the hell? It's despicable. How can you say you're defending the Constitution and destroy the press?
Yeah. I don't understand their logic in the context of the Constitution and what that actually means to them, or even if they understand it. They're so concerned about the whole "but my rights" thing, that nobody else's rights seem to really matter. And also in relationship to Brandy Cruz, she's going to have some devil's advocate thing coming out about all of this soon, where she's going to try and play the middleman, which is what I can't stand about her. No offense.
She's going to do the false moral equivalency thing. That's going to be my guess, right? She'll show clips of CHOP, and she'll might even show, like, here's me as the victim, because people that align to the political right like being professional victims. We've seen this over and over and over again.
Yeah, we saw with Lindsey Graham earlier with the whole whataboutisms. I can't, really condemn this and vote for the 25th Amendment when Pelosi and Schumer didn't condemn the Seattle and Portland protests because it was the same thing.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, I'm sorry, nobody actually stormed the East Precinct, and nobody ever had any intention of storming the East Precinct. And this crazy idea that the Seattle police got in their head when they set up the Western Barricade on June 1st is what started the whole thing.
And let's be real, they weren't trying to overthrow a government.
I think there are some people on the right that are going, oh, wait a minute. You mean the police don't actually work for us? They don't work for them. They work for they. All right, next clip here. Viewer discretion advised. Seriously, this is a really hard clip to watch. We're kind of showing the progression, a timeline of what happens in the day. So let me tee up and explain, because then people will probably go, oh, I know what clip this is. After all of the police lines have fell, we've seen all of these video clips. Protesters have now worked all their way into the rotunda and to the statutory hall, and they are at the doors of the Senate and the House chamber. And in the case of the House chamber, they are literally at the door of the House chamber while House members are still in there and just starting the process of evacuation. We know that timeline because of the audio from 2 different cameras. And with that, I'm going to roll that clip, and I've given the warning on the viewer discretion.
That sounds like a fucking Got an active shooter. Yo, there's an active shooter here. Get her down. Get her light. Flashlight.
That was, I believe, 35 years old, Ashley Babbitt, who was shot. We don't know what agency shot her, but she shot and died of her injuries as a result of the actions. And there are people on the political right today that are going, where's the outrage over the police shooting?
She was trying to bust in the House chambers.
Okay, 3 fast thoughts. I'm trying to do the 3 fast thoughts thing. Number 1, I guess here's the best thing on that false moral equivalency. There was a person of color in Redmond who was shot here a few months ago by the Redmond Police Department. Shot and killed. They were armed with a gun. It was a domestic violence incident. It was all on body cam. There were multiple witnesses. The police did everything they could possibly do. They shot and killed him. And there wasn't anybody in like the Black Lives Matter movement, the Seattle protest scene, like nobody could even figure out. I bet you no one would even know their name in our audience right now, unless they happen like to live in Redmond in that apartment complex. Mm-hmm. It's not every flippin' police shooting, right? Mm-hmm. So that's my second point. And my third point is, you've kind of made it. She was breaking into the House chambers. There's another video at a different angle. She has climbed all the way through.
Yep.
And if they did not take that action, and if she passed through the door, what's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. What's going to happen?
You know, I have another thought on there. Why did the Republicans evacuate out of the chamber? Why didn't Josh Hawley want to stay? Josh Hawley did his fist pump to him. Mm-hmm. Right? He fist bumped the terrorists. Not fist bumped, did the power fist to the terrorists. So did Donald Trump, by the way. Why didn't Josh Hawley stay in the chambers and go, okay, my people are here?
That's a really good question. Here's your constituents. They want answers. Give them some answers, boys. Like, come on.
Why did Ted Cruz leave? Dan Crenshaw.
Good. Lindsay.
Lochner.
These are your people.
John Kennedy out of Louisiana. Ben Sasse. Or Sasse. Sassy.
Oh, I like Sasse better. Let's do that.
I get Jewish white boy rhythm. I admit it. Why did they stick around to see their people? So the National Guard comes in. One of the reasons we didn't see the National Guard is the National Guard comes in and they do the sweep of the Capitol building. We know that because there's video of it. And that is why they were able to sweep the Capitol so quickly, because we had heard over and over and over again, 1,100 have been deployed and everybody's going, where the hell are they? And apparently they were in the Capitol. And they're the ones who basically did this sweep and did everything in there. Although Lindsey Graham expressed the same concern that I have. Lindsey Graham couldn't have been too concerned about Bob's in the building because he was in the chambers and gave a speech. So while all this is going on and Ashley Babbitt is dead And there are 57 injured police officers, including one who's had their skull basically bashed in. I say skull, we don't know skull, but their head bashed in by fire extinguishers and on life support. Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani are still thinking they can salvage the coup. And Rudy Giuliani is making phone calls. But Rudy Giuliani is just so Rudy. And Rudy called the wrong senator and left the wrong voicemail with the wrong senator, and that senator shared the voicemail. Now let me go ahead and play that. And this was at 7 p.m. when this voicemail was left, 1 hour before the joint session of the House and Senate restarted.
Senator Tuberville, or I should say Coach Tuberville, this is Rudy Giuliani, President's lawyer. I'm calling you because I want to discuss with you how they're trying to rush this hearing and how we need you, our Republican friends, to try to just slow it down so we can get these legislatures to get more information to you. And I know they're reconvening at 8 tonight. But the only strategy we can follow is to object to numerous states and raise issues so that we get ourselves into tomorrow, ideally until the end of tomorrow. I know McConnell is doing everything he can to rush it, which is kind of a kick in the head, because it's one thing to oppose us, it's another thing not to give us a fair opportunity to contest it. He wants to try to get it down to only three states that we contest. Whether there are 10 states that we contest, not 3. So if you could object to every state, and along with a congressman get a hearing for every state, I know we would delay you a lot, but it would give us the opportunity to get the legislators who are very, very close to pulling their votes, particularly after what McConnell did today. It angered them because they have written letters asking that you guys adjourn and send them back the questionable ones, and they'll fix them up. So this phone number I'm available on all night, and it would be an honor to talk to you. Thank you.
3 thoughts: disgusting, reprehensible, seditionist.
That about sums him up. I don't know how he has a license to practice law still.
By the way, there are no basements in most of Western Washington because the ground is too soft. I'm not in the basement. I'm actually at my business in my studio. Referring to one of the comments there, Jennifer.
Oh, okay.
I got to play the Chud clip.
These are Chud.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
We are not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So Rudy makes that call. Now, this is for you, Chuds. You know, this is a perfect segue. We streamed for 13 hours yesterday, and we covered all of the speeches in their agonizing length of time for what I kept calling kabuki theater, because there was no way that they were not going to certify the election. But anyway, we did all of that. And Representative Roger Williams, Republican, Texas, and speaking for not certifying the state of Pennsylvania on the House floor, had this to say. Now, let me preface this too. I had been streaming since about noon. This was about 10:30 at night. And this was the first food I was having for the day. So you are going to see me chomping on some pizza on the little bottom cam on this. And with that, I'm going to roll part of the most critical part of Representative Roger Williams, Republican, Texas.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I would first like to say to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who said we should be ashamed over here, I'm not ashamed, and neither are my colleagues over here. We're actually proud of what we're doing and what we're standing for. So I hope the record will show that. Yesterday's cowardly attack on our American democracy was a horrible act. While Congress attempted to execute their constitutional duty to debate and vote on the certification of the Electoral College, violence interrupted the proceedings in an attempt to stop the democratic process. Those who committed these acts are domestic terrorists and should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I thank the Capitol Police and all of the law enforcement organizations that pushed back against this mob. I can't help but be reminded of the bravery during the baseball shooting on myself and my Republican colleagues in June of 2017. I thank God every day for their presence.
3 quick thoughts on this one. Roger called them domestic terrorists. And if you watch that clip, you see the heads nodding behind him. And those are Republicans that are there with their heads nodding because he's on that side of the House floor. There is a Democrat who's, I believe it's a Democrat. They're in the wheelchair next to him. I believe they're a Democrat. Don't hold me to that. I can't think of their name off the top of my head. It was so flippin' late that night. He's also nodding their head. So that's number one. Number two, he was involved in the 2017 shooting when they were out just having, the baseball scrimmage. So this is a guy that knows a little something firsthand about political violence.
Yep.
Because he's experienced firsthand. So I'm actually going to trust Roger Williams' judgment on being able to spot domestic terrorism when he sees domestic terrorism. And those are my thoughts, chuds. And that's why we are calling them domestic terrorists. Because Republican Congressman Roger Williams, Texas, who, by the way, didn't feel that Biden should be certified as president, so he's not a rhino, he called you domestic terrorists.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did, because that's what you are.
Roguestrift is back. I think, hey, K Variable, Roguestrift was, we saw this comments before, so they're in here, that exact same comment. So they are in with a fake account or a different account or a second account or a third account or, they're brigading out of some chud farm. So instead of the timeout, just turn it into a ban because I remember that word for word comment from Monday night.
Oh, are they trolling?
And I know we banned that. I know we banned that individual. So that's just somebody that set up another account. So you could just show them the door. Okay, this is what I'm going to do before we go into Trump's speech. I want to do a little pause for the cause. And the first thing I'm going to say, if you appreciate, this is perfect timing, if you appreciate the work of our mods and admins who aren't paid, we pay them in hearts. And this is the point. If you're on Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, spam those hearts. Let them know that you appreciate the hard work that they're doing because they are suffering emotional trauma having to read the comments that generally Jennifer and I don't have to see. So spam those hearts. Let them know that you love what's going on. It also helps amplify the stream in the various AIs, and we've got to play the game with that. And then the next thing is that I want to thank our patrons. I'm going to do a plug for Patron. I am going to then run a movie trailer, and then we are going to jump right back into this. And believe it or not, although we're at 45 minutes, you're like, oh my God, it's another 2-hour show. We're actually more than halfway through.
Wow.
Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you.
Initially kind of came in and, said, hey, we're going to have to start moving people. And then a couple other people came in and we were like...
Police to be held accountable for their actions. We're not going without no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
That was a trailer and introduction to our documentary, Can You Hear Us?, which we'll be releasing in February of 2021. However, you can get to see Can You Hear Us earlier if you want by becoming a patron. We've already explained what happens if you become a patron and how it supports us as a news organization. For as little as $5 a month, you can help support independent journalism and help continue to have us bring the news and insights that some of you have grown to trust. And we really love and appreciate all of our patrons that help literally and metaphorically keep the lights on. So, Jennifer, Donald Trump originally was positioned as Donald Trump has conceded and said that Joe Biden has won. However, when you watch his 2 minute and 41 seconds of very stilted, like it just looks like it's like watching a hostage movie.
Yes, that's what I thought. I was like, is somebody holding him hostage? Is he okay?
It's like so. Is there like someone in the Secret Service with like Pence and Schumer and Pelosi and McConnell and Grassley? Right? Yeah. And there's like someone with a gun and they're all there like this and they're like, read the fucking teleprompter. Yeah. Because that's what it looks like. Yeah, it totally did. It looks like a hostage situation. Looks like, the letter you have to read off when somebody wants a ransom. Yeah, it was really, and so like just none of it was him at all. No. And it was just packed with so many lies, which we're going to unpack as we go through this. We're going to unpack, and also a very sinister message is hidden in there. We're going to unpack that also. With that, we're going to play. We've broken this up into 5 parts, Malcontents. We're going to play the first part of Donald Trump's concession, air quotes.
I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders.
He immediately deployed the National Guard?
Yeah.
In what parallel universe did that happen? Secretary of Defense Miller, Vice President Pence, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senate Pro Temp Grassley, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, per the Secretary of Defense Miller, said that they deployed the National Guard and had to go around Donald Trump to make it happen. Because didn't the first request get denied to deploy the National Guard? On that day, yes. There is now accusations floating around that the Pentagon contacted the Washington, D.C. Police Department 3 days before any of this and said, do you guys want the National Guard? And they said no. Yeah, I've heard that as well. So now I know some of the chuds. I got to play the chud clip again.
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Some of the chuds are going to be like, how do you know that's true? You're just making it up. We know it's true because Secretary of Defense Miller wrote a statement to that effect. Yeah. Yeah. And then Secretary of Defense Miller must be part of the deep state. He is his handpicked because the other Secretary of Defense got kicked out because he wanted to get rid of the Confederate bases on the names, which, by the way, loser in chief, his veto was overridden and the Confederate names on military bases are going away as part of that package.
Oh, sad. Not.
All right, next clip. So we just called out, like, he started so well, and then it was like, dude.
It was
All right.
interesting that you called them intruders, though. I was like, oh, that's.
Oh, I think that's in the next clip.
Oh, okay.
We just get into the next. Wait a minute.
America is and must always be a nation of law and order. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol.
Demonstrators. The demonstrators that infiltrated the Capitol. He didn't use that language in June. He didn't use that language and when Charlottesville happened. He's actually never used that language with anything remotely that isn't aligned with adoration and support for dear leader.
It's demonstrators. That's an interesting word. Interesting thing to call them.
I think Representative Roger Williams of Texas, Republican, who did not want to certify Joe Biden, so he's not a rhino. I think calling them domestic terrorists got it right.
Yes. Yes, they are domestic terrorists.
And with that, we're going to go to the next clip.
Have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay. We have just been through an intense election and emotions are high. But now tempers must be cooled and calm restored.
Not it.
It must have pained him. I mean, he must have been like in physical pain after giving this, whatever the hell it was, hostile speech, because he wanted to go off script so bad and just start railing on the election. I mean, he's got some like little digs at it here and there, but I feel like he probably had to go cry in a corner for like 30 minutes afterwards. He can't tweet about it. He can't go on Instagram or Facebook. Like, what is he going to do?
You can't say it. You can't say it.
Yep.
You're going to get soup from my family if you say it.
Yep.
Let's drive the dogs crazy. Squeaky pig.
Oh.
I know every dog listening to the show just went, what the heck was that?
Yeah, my pug just made himself awake. Thank you very much.
It's like not it. This isn't on me.
Yeah.
All right, next clip.
We must get on with the business of America. My campaign vigorously pursued every legal avenue to contest the election results. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. In so doing, I was fighting to defend American democracy. I continue to strongly believe that we must reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility of all voters and to ensure faith and confidence in all future elections. Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power. This moment calls for healing and reconciliation. 2020 has been a challenging time for our people. A menacing pandemic has upended the lives of our citizens, isolated millions in their homes, damaged our economy, and claimed countless lives. Defeating this pandemic and rebuilding the greatest economy on earth will require all of us working together.
He suddenly cares about COVID and it's real?
Excuse me while I stifle the gag in the back of my throat.
So COVID isn't going away? It's not magically going away?
No, it's real now. It's like magic. Poof.
It damaged the economy?
The greatest economy ever? Are you kidding me?
The economy needs to get rebuilt back to what it was?
Why? This is a sudden change. I wonder why.
Is it like we don't want to talk about yesterday? Let's not talk about yesterday.
No, let's just brush that under the rug, because now I'm going to change all of my tune, throw everybody off, and they'll talk about this rather than the fact that I encourage sedition.
And if COVID is suddenly real, then what about all those domestic terrorists out there yesterday that weren't wearing masks, which is really ironic because the FBI has made it very, very clear that they're going to be subpoenaing and go into the social media companies and all and getting every little bit of video. And they have already started identifying people. We're going to get into that in a little bit.
What about all the police officers that had their mask pulled down underneath their nose, or the 50 Republicans who didn't have masks on and the Dems were telling them, please, will you put a mask on for us? And they wouldn't do it.
I did find it interesting that Representative Green out of Georgia are like, how the fuck did this happen, America? The Quanon nutcase, who said that basically you will never make me wear a mask in the House chambers. It'll be over my dead body. And yesterday when she was doing her speech, she was wearing a mask.
Funny how things change.
Oh, you mean a little bait and switch action there, Quanon followers? You mean it's just politically expedient? She used you to get in there, and now she's going to do what she can to keep her power? Suckers.
Oh, no, I feel like they're pawns a lot, and they just don't even realize it.
I'm sure she is trying to find where those blood-drinking Dems are. She probably can now report to you that she has been all through the basements and the bunkers down in the Capitol building, and there were no child prisoners or blood-drinking Dems that could be found out in there.
Big shocker there, right?
All right, let's go to the last, and this is where it gets, oh shit.
It will require a renewed emphasis on the civic values of patriotism, faith, charity, community, and family. We must revitalize the sacred bonds of love and loyalty that bind us together as one national family. To the citizens of our country, serving as your president has been the honor of my lifetime. And to all of my wonderful supporters, I know you are disappointed, but I also want you to know that our incredible journey is only just beginning. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Our incredible journey is only just beginning.
Did that make you cringe a little too? Because I feel a little cringy, a little gross after that.
It kind of sounds like a stand back and stand by comment.
Yeah, it really does. It's only just beginning. Because how do you think people are going to take that?
Well, I already know how his supporters are taking it because I was reading some of this stuff, committing self-abuse, reading some of the stuff in the right-wing world. And, they're taking it as, see, they want us to keep going. It's only the beginning.
He had to do that. He was forced to do that, but he left us this message, and it's a call to action. We have to move forward.
Yeah, but it isn't you have to move forward in full support of the United States government that you're going to get on January 20th. We're only just beginning.
Yeah. Civil War. Did you see the T-shirts they had? The pre-made T-shirts, Civil War, January 6th?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
and this didn't piss anybody off that something was coming? Are you kidding me?
But apparently nobody saw this coming.
Yeah, okay.
You could have gone on an Etsy and seen it coming. I want to talk just very briefly. I do want to keep it short, like 3 minutes. And I can literally keep it 3 minutes. Got a timer in front of me. And it's not me talking for 3 minutes. Beer Hall Putsch. I make this joke about the beer belly putsch. Beer Hall Putsch, Germany, Munich, 1923. Adolf Hitler and a group of followers decide that they are going to try and overthrow the German government. He gets basically screwed in the interest of keeping it short. They kind of go, have fun storming the castle, boys. And a bunch of people don't show up, and people that promised to do stuff didn't do stuff. He ends up arrested in jail, but he is a cause celeb. He is treated like a celebrity. He writes Mein Kampf. 10 years later, the German Reichstag legally puts Adolf Hitler into power as chancellor, and then you have the Reichstag fire, and he declares himself Grand Poobah, and we have 100+ million people dead in World War II, and nuclear weapons, Cold War. I mean, you can just link it all back to that.
Let's not forget Operation Paperclip.
Jennifer, my question to you is, did the German people, the German government, the Weimar Republic, make a mistake in not coming down harder on the architects of the Beer Hall Putsch? And then by not coming down on them harder, laid the framework and paved the road for them to regroup, and 10 years later deliver their fascist nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you take any history course on, the origins of Nazi Germany and Nazi Germany in the Holocaust, that's one of the things that's discussed. Had they actually, put the hammer down on him and made him really kind of experience some real consequences for his action, and those that assisted him, that this, you can't say it would have been avoided, but it would have made it more difficult for him to assume that position of power.
Now, Donald Trump certainly doesn't have the intellectual horsepower or the patience to write Mein Kampf, but nothing prevents him from writing it at parlor at 280 characters at a time.
Exactly. And that's the thing, it's not like, these days people are getting their information in, short Facebook posts, character tweets, whatever. So it's not like he has to go and write something like Mein Kampf. He can throw out something that's 40 words of mumble, and people are going to read it like it's gospel if they believe in him.
Exactly. And one thing I just want to be clear that I'm not suggesting that Donald Trump 10 years from now will be, because he would be 84 years old. And it's not a practical point. But then we start thinking about John Kennedy out of Louisiana, not that Kennedy, the other Kennedy, Josh Hawley, Loeffner, right? Although I don't see Loeffner being in that role, but you kind of think of these extremists in the party that are younger, and are they the up and comer?
What about his son? Don't you fear his son at all?
Are they smart enough? Because that's the other thing. They have to be smarter than Trump.
Okay. I don't know. I fear, because populism is this thing, right? US comes in waves, populism. I fear where we're at now, we're so divided. We're going to see populism occur more frequently. So you may have 4 years of a Biden presidency, and he's really unable to do much to clean up the mess that's been left for him, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention, we can't put all of our faith in one person. We have to keep railing against the establishment, or nothing's going to change, whatever. I just want to make that clear. But, in 4 years, you're going to potentially have a lot of disgruntled people who are upset that, this mess wasn't able to be cleaned up in the way that they'd hoped. And somebody else, his son or somebody like him, could come right back in again and promise to fix it, to make people better, to make people's lives better.
Well, I will close with this. The chatter that is spilled over from the dark web and into kind of the real thing is, we're going to be back on January 19th, and this time we're bringing our guns.
Yeah. That's gross, and that's horrifying. And this is why I think it's so important that they take seriously the idea of getting him out of office.
And unfortunately, we've hit the wall in time, and maybe that's something we can discuss on Monday, or if an impeachment comes in or 25th Amendment, we'll do it right. Certainly, if a 25th Amendment comes in, right, Jenna, I'd be pinging you and going, God, they did 25th Amendment. We gotta get on the air.
Okay.
All right, and with that, we're actually going to go to our next story. Our next story takes us down to Olympia, Washington. It's a tale of two protests and a tale of two different responses from the Washington State Patrol of those two protests. Protest number one happened on August 22nd, 2020. It was an announced and planned protest, so the Washington State Patrol knew that this was going to be happening. A group of Black Lives Matter protesters coming from Olympia, Tacoma, and Seattle, caravan together. They assembled, they marched to the Capitol building, and then they marched to the gates of Jay Inslee's mansion. The protesters had been marching to others to go into homes, and other politicians would come out and sit down and talk with them. We filmed and documented a few of those, not all of them. And in part, we filmed and documented some of those because protesters never did say what kind of the end game was after incidents on July 4. So we would just show up with the camera, and we would, like, people like, where are we going? I'm like, I don't know. I'm here with the camera. I'm covering the story. And there was a very different response from what happened yesterday on January 6th, when planned protest, planned to go to Jay Inslee's mansion. So the Washington State Patrol knew they were coming.
Yep.
And I'm just going to play the video because it speaks for its frickin' self.
The officers that have the munitions for OC or CS have their gas masks on.
Nobody leaves until we do what we want from now on. No more speeches. No more waving flags. That's right. You guys are in the wrong. You are in the wrong.
There is quite a large group there, and we can see it here from the video. That moment when they're just shaking the gate, Drew, and as you mentioned, just one officer standing there outnumbered completely, and then they start to go in. It's just something we haven't seen before.
No, and not here in Olympia. There have been a couple times when some heavily armed folks have made their way into the Capitol, but never forcing themselves in, at least in my memory. Lots of demonstrations over the years. You can see there's a dog. We've seen kids out here before today, but we have not had any violence until we saw this group bust through the gate here. You still see a good dozen plus up at the front door of the mansion. Again, the governor was here.
Drew, did they make any mention? Did they make any mention of whether his wife was with him?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know you're dealing with a lot out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if his wife was in there at the time, but we know that he is in a safe location. That's all that we would tell him. But his wife Trudy does live here with him, so you would make that assumption this year.
I'm just nothing but outraged. I know Omari was beyond outraged today because I watched part of this morning's, and he brought this up specific. I mean, practically half his show was about what happened in Olympia.
It's disgusting. My favorite part is they're like, is his wife in there? So nobody even really knows where his wife is. So you leave, you have this planned protest coming. These people have been violent in the past. And so you have one police officer there?
That they assaulted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on camera. The camera doesn't lie. They were assaulted. A Washington State police officer was assaulted by so-called patriots. And I guess they're fine with that.
Forcibly trespassing. And this is hours after the attempted coup on the Capitol. So you think that maybe they might have thought to put additional reinforcements in place?
This was well advertised what they were going to do. I know it was well advertised because the night before it happened, my text was blowing up with people asking me, are you going to be in Olympia?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, because we're waiting for the other. And the other thing is I kept saying, admittedly, I mean, I'll admittedly say this. I was like, it'll be the scrubs that'll show up in Olympia because I think the real hardcores are in Washington, D.C. But apparently they couldn't buy a plane ticket.
Exactly. You know, it's interesting because going back to, like, I posted this discussion post to allow my students to reflect on the events from yesterday. And like surprisingly, like half the class posted within an hour. But one of the comments that kind of stuck with me is like the way in which BLM and Antifa protesters are treated versus these, you know, right-wing terrorists. It just demonstrates that there are two standards for America. And I think that video encapsulates all of that.
I think it encapsulates it beautifully. The other thing is, where is the outrage? Look at all the outrage in St. Louis when the gate to a private street was broken down. And there's questions on who actually broke the gate. But we'll just give it to them. The gate was broken down. People marched down a private street. Nobody had guns, by the way, to go to the mayor because the mayor had doxed hundreds of protesters. Literally doxed hundreds of protesters in St. Louis.
So gross.
And remember, like Amara, we've already forgotten the outrage. They went into private property. They broke the gate. They had every right to put the guns in their faces like that. Prosecutors don't see it that way.
Yeah.
Or is it because they're black?
We know the answer to this. I mean, it's obvious.
We know the answer to it. It's because they're black.
Yeah.
The one thing that the Washington State Patrol demonstrated yesterday, as well as the Washington State government, and I have said this, you know, Washington likes to think, especially Western Washington and really especially Seattle, on how woke they are, how progressive they are, how ism they are, and it's all bullshit.
It is. It's superficial bullshit. It's totally superficial bullshit. You walk around my neighborhood and there's all these signs that we accept everyone here, black, trans, whatever. And it's like the same people that will, you know, call the cops and somebody's sitting out on their car too long, you know?
Yeah.
Garbage.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly right. You know, or the same people that were cheering the clearing of Cal Anderson Park on 12/18,
Exactly.
and now are upset that they're in Miller Park and they can't connect the dots that the city of Seattle lied to them on providing, we gave them referrals for housing. Then why are they all at Miller Park?
Yeah. Yeah, because they buy into those stereotypes about unhomed people. And so they assume that it's not the city that's the issue, it's the people.
We're going to do another little pause for the cause. And then we're going to jump into our next story, which is really just more of a little discussion between you and me.
Okay, cool.
Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you.
Initially kind of came in and, you know, said, hey, we're going to have to start moving people. And then a couple other people came in and we were like... Wow, this exploded fast.
That was a different trailer for our documentary, Can You Hear Us, which will be released in February of 2021. You can see it in January if you become a patron. That is one of the benefits, and that's at any level. And for as little as $5 a month, you can support independent media. And I would like to thank Christine. Christine, thank you very much for becoming our latest patron. Very much appreciated. With that, I'm going to roll the next story clip, Jennifer.
Okay.
Jennifer, I also want to call out Olga and Kijana. Kijana, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If I got it wrong, thank you for your patience. And I thank you for your generosity and helping support independent media. There's a lot of conspiracy theories because the political right doesn't want to own what happened yesterday. They don't want to admit that they were part of an attempted violent coup to destroy the legislative branch of the United States of America and create a fascist state.
Yeah, no, there's a whole lot of finger pointing at Antifa right now. I read one tweet earlier, and I can't remember. It's one of the God, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's actually somebody in government, a Republican, who called them fascist, anti-fascist. I was like, that makes sense. But okay.
The other one that I love is when they're called anarchist fascists. That's the other one. I'm like, you keep saying those words. I don't think those words mean what you think they mean.
Yes, exactly.
Let me go over some of these with you. We can have a little discussion about it. Number one, the person in the Senate chamber with their fist in the air is an Antifa plant. The reason we know that they're an Antifa plant is because only Antifa puts their fist in the air.
Okay. Who determined that rule?
So guess what? We know who that person is. He is 34 years old, Josiah Colt of Treasure Valley, Idaho. How do we know this? Because he bragged about it on social media as reported by the Idaho Statesman, which is basically the main newspaper out of Boise in the state of Idaho. He bragged about it on social. I suspect at some point the Secret Service or FBI is going to be visiting Josiah Colt.
Oh, yeah. These ones aren't real smart, are they?
There's definitely got to be some people at ENDD that are watching this tonight, if they're not out protesting tonight, that are just like, you have to be friggin' kidding me.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I want to point about a Josiah Colt is what he bragged about was, and he also like, this is my picture. Here's like, this is me and I can prove it. He was like, I was in Nancy Pelosi's chair. So he's so freaking stupid. He couldn't figure out that he was in a chamber with 100 desks and not 438 desks and not realize the chamber that he was in.
Ah, yes.
So actually he was sitting in Mike Pence's chair.
My favorite quote from one of the stories I read before we went on air was like this reporter documenting the very beginning of the protest. And he's like, people are just milling around. And one of them says, I think this is the place we're supposed to be. Like, you don't know where you're going to find your government to overthrow it.
All right, the next one. The horny head freaky dude.
Oh, QAnon
semi-naked, right? He was actually on the intro picture. He's an Antifa plant because nobody from the political right would have tattoos or look like that.
Oh, okay. I actually
we know who horny head freaky dude is. He's actually a very well-known individual.
Yep.
He is 33-year-old Jake Angeli. He is from Arizona. He is a Trump supporter and a QAnon devotee. And he is kind of infamous in Arizona. He's kind of like their Matthew, but, for QAnon.
Yes. He's the QAnon shaman. And I have video of him in the Glendale, Arizona mall. And he went there to extinguish the pedophile spirits from the mall. So yeah, he's a very special person.
You have to I'm hitting the chud button. You have to own them, Chuds.
These are Chud.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Chud. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
You're not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.
He was actually cruising Washington, D.C. in his car today, very proud that nobody's arrested him yet, and actually gave an interview with NBC News.
Are you? I'm not going to swear. Are you
Do I
kidding me?
report fake news?
He gave an interview with NBC News and nobody's arrested his ass yet?
He was bragging that he hasn't been arrested. And he's like, yeah, I'm getting ready home to go home and drive to Arizona. By the way, FBI has on social media, we're trying to identify people. Like, this is the most identifiable motherfucker from yesterday.
Yeah. What? Oh my God. What the actual fuck is going on here? Like, honestly, these people committed sedition and tried to overthrow a government. That's, a crime that's punishable with up to 20 years in prison. Why are they not all in prison?
Well, this is one of the reasons why the Capitol Police Chief was forced to resign today, because the Capitol Police Chief couldn't answer the question. By the time people were leaving the building, why weren't officers out there just zip tying everybody and saying, sit your ass on the ground? Next. Sit your ass on the ground. Next. Because we certainly know that the police were able to do that with Black Lives Matter protesters in cities like Louisville and in Minneapolis and here in Seattle and in Portland and in Los Angeles and in New York City.
I hope the QAnon shaman gets himself some nice silver jewelry real soon.
We need to pick it up because we're coming up in an hour and a half, and I know it's on me. The woman who was shot was a 16-year-old girl, not a 35-year-old Air Force veteran.
I read that somewhere.
They knew that she was shot. And, of course, we've already... Ashley Babbitt. Here's the rabbit hole that you have to go down. Jennifer, come down this rabbit hole with me, okay? Hand in hand, let's go down this rabbit hole. All right? So, if Ashley Babbitt was an Antifa plant, then that means in 2015, Antifa went to Ashley Babbitt while she was deployed overseas with the Air Force, by the way.
Okay.
And they said, okay, on January 6, 2021, Donald Trump, first of all, he's going to get elected president, even though it's 2015. Yeah. And he's going to have the election stolen, right? Because we got to go down the rabbit hole. He's going to have the election stolen. And on January 6, 2021, you need to go to the Capitol and you need to break into the chambers because there's going to be an attempted coup and you're going to get shot and you're going to die for the cause. Now, to create all this illusion for Antifa, this is why we're talking to you in 2015, you need to set up a Twitter account starting at the very beginning of, let's say they talked to her in December. You need to set up a Twitter account and just post nothing but pro-Trump stuff and QAnon stuff and violent stuff and pick up over 5,000 followers so that people will honestly believe that you were a Trump supporter when actually you were a plant. And oh, by the way, if she was a 16-year-old and they talked to her in 2015, then that means she was 11.
Oh goodness, that was a very deep rabbit hole. I don't want to go down that one again. That's insane. But boy, Antifa really gets around, huh? Flying all over the world, recruiting people.
It's amazing.
It really is.
That police manual that we covered, did we not call that when we covered the police manual? It's like, boy, all this stuff in here seems to apply to a different group of people.
Yes.
It appears that the Washington, D.C. Police Department got that manual and thought their friends were showing up.
Apparently. I think that manual is more far spread than we know.
Jason McKibben, one of our fans, says we are everywhere.
Yes.
All right, the last one. The defenders in the Capitol, the police officers, Secret Service agents, etc., they're just paid actors because nobody in Hollywood is working right now because of the, COVID. They were provided by the Hollywood elite. The proof of that is that the mainstream media was already inside and ready to film it all.
What?
Jennifer, I've been down some holes today.
Are you okay? I feel like
I don't know. I
feel like you need a drink after this?
I think so.
Did they forget that, they were trying to certify an election? So that might have been part of the reason why the media was there.
So let me get this straight. We're certifying an election, and it's going to be a contested election, and you have 12 senators that are going to try to derail it, and 140 Republicans are going to derail it. And the mainstream media is like, yeah, this isn't an important story.
No, we're not going to.
And Donald Trump's making a speech.
So
these are think about this. Wait a minute. Hold hands. Let's go down the rabbit hole again. The mainstream media never covers Donald Trump. But the mainstream media was covering his speech. So if the mainstream media wasn't there to cover his speech, then that proves the mainstream media doesn't cover Donald Trump. But the mainstream media was there.
I don't understand how that even occurs in somebody's minds. It's like, they were doing all these interviews with the people that were there, trying to talk to them when they're there, like, in mid-coup. And they're like, they're taking our freedoms. We want our freedoms back. I'm here to get the pedophiles. And I thought maybe they just picked a couple really dumb ones to talk to, but it was every single one had some crazy ass conspiracy theory of why they were there. It's a revolution. Do you even know what a revolution is? It hurts my brain. I'm sorry.
It really does hurt my brain. And we've covered stuff on the right. We've interviewed people on the right. We've actually we covered a Back the Blue rally, and the organizers of we've covered multiple Back the Blue rallies. The organizers of one Back the Blue rally afterwards actually reached out to us, said they appreciated us being there. They appreciated our coverage. They felt that we were fair and balanced in everything that we showed. They felt that what we showed was what they were trying to accomplish. And that they did not appreciate the narrative of safe Seattle and the accusations that Safe Seattle was making there. The other one is that there's just this general thing like it was all Antifa plants. There's another person that we know about, one of Katie Daviscourt's buddy from Turning Point USA out of Oregon was arrested. So she was arrested in Washington, D.C. So whatever she did had to be batshit crazy because the bar to get arrested was super high yesterday.
Yeah. Wow. That's all I can really say about that.
Turning Point USA. She's also a member of the Young Republicans there in Oregon. Don't have her name on the piece of paper. That story is on Como. By the way, Jennifer, Como used our video today in a story questioning. So we'll give points to the mainstream media questioning the police response yesterday versus how they responded on 8/22. So thank you. I know people think Cuomo's the devil, and I'm going to give you that, but we call it as we see it, and so we'll give you the point.
Yeah. It's crazy. It feels to me like I don't know. It was crazy yesterday. There were some crazy conspiracy theories that came out, but the fact that they set up a noose, had, pre-made T-shirts, and weapons, pipe bombs, they were there to, you can't sugarcoat this. They were there to perform a coup, cause damage, take lives, and overthrow the sitting government.
The Washington, D.C. police is claiming that among the things that they recovered was a cooler full of Molotov cocktails.
Yes, I read that.
I hope that they were better constructed Molotov cocktails than the one that the Seattle police claims that they discovered on 9/7.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to go to our last story.
Okay.
My last story is a personal appeal. It's a personal appeal to the protest. I know there are no protest leaders, but I don't know what else word to use. The protest influencers, organizers, advisors, inspirers, whatever you would like to call yourselves. This message is for you. There's been a lot of very public infighting around the various different groups within the protest leaders, and I use that word leader very, very loosely because I'm trying to be brief. And I am not in any way saying that people who have been accused of being abusers or having a bad history or being grifters should not be removed from their position of being an influencer. If you are not self-checking, you end up with what the Republican Party has become, and that's something that we can't need. But I firmly believe, Seattle, that as happens so often in Seattle, we have taken it too far. We have groups that want to do this and groups that want to do that. And if you don't agree, then we need to have a conversation and then a conversation of a conversation. And then the different factions go around behind each other in very passive-aggressive Seattle manner, instead of simply sitting down and having a conversation. And what has happened is, I feel, the mission has been lost. And the mission is and remains Black Lives Matter. If we look at the events that happened yesterday and we compare June of 2020 in Washington, D.C. and January 2021 in Washington, D.C., or we compare right here in our backyard, Olympia on August 22nd versus Olympia on January 6th, the institutional systemic racism in our nation cannot be denied. And anybody who is denying it at this point is simply complicit in it. This isn't about supporting our broken government or our broken system. This is not about defending capitalism. There's a bigger picture that is going on here. Today, I was admonished because I called the people that did what they did yesterday right-wing domestic terrorists. And what I was told was you shouldn't be calling them that because as protesters, we occupy buildings. Vis-a-vis an example, the hotel in Fife that was occupied to provide housing for the unhomed. But providing housing for the unhomed is very, very different from trying to overthrow the United States government, destroy the legislative branch, and instill a dictator that would rule with terror and an iron hand and destroy all semblance of rights that we have in this nation. When Donald Trump, in his so-called concession speech today, talked about we need to evaluate election law, really what that was code for was we need to bring Jim Crow back. Because here is the reality, America. The number of people in this country who are white are going to become minorities, and they are going to become the minority group in my lifetime. And my temples are gray. And that scares the shit out of some people. As a protest community, I am begging you, put down your differences. And I'll make it clear once again, I am not talking about things like people that have grifted money, people that are accused of being abusers, whether that's mental abuse, psychological abuse, or physical abuse, because there is a tremendous amount of trauma in the protest community. And yes, I'm dealing with that trauma too. I know. People in the protest community know that I have been there every step of the way. And I have been there when a number of people we don't see anymore. And my temples are gray. So I am begging you, because there is something much bigger that is going on. And if you continue to allow this country to go on the path that it is going on, Black lives are never going to matter. And that's my closing thoughts for the evening, Jennifer.
Those are really fantastic closing thoughts.
Malcontents, I want to thank you very, very much. Mods, this is the point where you can put your little question mark. If we have any questions, we'll do, what do you think, 7 minutes? Are you okay with 7 minutes? Jennifer, if we have like 7 minutes of questions?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we'll do 6 minutes and 4 seconds because actually the timer's rolling over. So if anybody here has your question, and I know it takes about 20 seconds for those words to get out, so that's why I'm just blabbering right now to fill the time. Thank you, everybody, for your thank yous, and thank you, everybody, for your well saids. Kelly, thank you for your thanks on the coverage yesterday. It was a team. It was not just me. You need to be thanking Jennifer. She literally rushed home. Yes, let's get on the air. Her Our kids were hungry. I had to suck down pizza at 10:30 at night while chewing pizza on the air while all this is going on. The mods and admins were 13 hours. Some of the mods and admins went 13 hours. It's a team. And again, you can show your appreciation by spamming those hearts or putting messages of support in the chat. And, one more time, you can Venmo the Malcontent, or you can become a patron. Those are all ways that you can show support. The other thing is, like, follow, subscribe. I don't say that enough. And I know that Sarah, our social media, she's always on me. Like, okay, you're saying this in that, but you're not saying this. Like, follow, subscribe, and share at Watch Party. Question. I don't see any unanswered questions tonight. We have covered all of the questions. So that's it.
Hello.
I'm trying to perfect, Keith Olbermann. That one was a terrible throw. I have Jewish white boy athletic.
I could see it, so you're totally fine.
Athleticism, even though I don't wear a baseball cap and flip it around and hold my backpack.
There's nobody there to hold your backpack, but okay.
And it looks like some other dude in a MAGA hat is like, I think that dude is actually kind of like telling him, like, bro, chill out. It kind of looks like, right? Gray-haired temple dude, by the way. Old angry white guys unite. Yeah, I just said that out loud. All right, Malcontents, that is it. Thank you, everybody. Jennifer, as always, thank you so much. If you came in late to the show, we're going to rebroadcast. We do rebroadcast now, so you'll have a chance to see the rebroadcast. You could also see it on demand. Thursday shows get rebroadcasted twice. They get rebroadcast Friday at 1 o'clock, and then they get rebroadcasted Sunday at 6:30 in the morning. Yeah, the reason we're rebroadcasting Sunday is we do have a national audience, and so that gives the West Coast audience, East Coast audience, maybe something to do over their coffee. And so with that, Jennifer and Malcontent, out!
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens.
All right, wait a minute. Somebody just came in with a late question, and we have to give it to them because they have 2 minutes left. Like there's like all these question marks in the chat. Like, no, come back.
Okay.
Question, who else did Trump pardon? I'm not aware of any pardons today unless anything's happened in the last 2 hours.
I just looked at the news and I didn't see anything. There was just that discussion after yesterday of his potential self-pardon.
What are your thoughts on the risk of violence on Inauguration Day? It's yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just yes. They better be way more prepared than they were. They should be prepared for friggin' war. That's my thought on Inauguration Day. I think I got all the questions. And with that, y'all got like 15 seconds, literally. Okay, now they're saying bye. Okay, let's try that again. Malcontent, Jennifer, out.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
Antifa, fuck you!
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.